President Trump has lashed out at Andrew McCabe after the former deputy FBI director joined Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes. McCabe shared a discussion he had about possibly invoking the 25th Amendment to remove the president from office. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett reports.
President Trump said nothing about Andrew McCabe's startling statements during his speech today in Florida, but he let loose on Twitter. Wow, so many lies, the president wrote, noting McCabe was fired for lying and branding his story even more deranged. McCabe told 60 Minutes Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, in the chaotic days after the president fired FBI Director James Comey, suggested wearing a wire to record Mr. Trump as part of an FBI investigation into possible obstruction of justice.
Now, he was not joking. He was absolutely serious, and in fact, he brought it up in the next meeting we had.
McCabe also said Rosenstein discussed how the cabinet might use the 25th Amendment to remove Mr. Trump from office.
It was really something that he kind of threw out in a very frenzied, chaotic conversation about where we were and what we needed to do next.
Senator Lindsey Graham, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, vowed to call McCabe and Rosenstein to testify under oath.
Was this an attempted bureaucratic coup? I don't know. I don't know who's telling the truth.
McCabe, referencing a conversation the president had with another FBI official, accused Mr. Trump of discounting U.S. intelligence on North Korea.
The president said he did not believe that the North Koreans had the capability to hit us here with ballistic missiles in the United States. And he did not believe that because President Putin had told him they did not.
Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris weighed in while campaigning in New Hampshire.
The idea that the President of the United States would take the word of the head of Russia over the head of the intelligence community is the height of irresponsibility.
Major Garrett joins me now from the White House. Major, you're well-sourced. I just want to know, getting your take on this, is what we heard from Andrew McCabe what you expected?
It is. There was one thing that was surprising that stood out to me, separate from all the things we just detailed in that piece and the ongoing coverage of that 60 Minutes interview. And that is, according to Andrew McCabe, the president asked Rod Rosenstein, as the Deputy Attorney General, to place the Russia investigation in the list of particulars that the White House sought from the Deputy Attorney General to justify the firing of James Comey, then the FBI director. If you remember, Jericka, that memo produced by the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, listed problems that the FBI found in the conduct of James Comey related specifically and only to his handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Rosenstein resisted the president's pressuring, according to McCabe, to put the Russia investigation launched by James Comey into that letter as a reason justifying his dismissal. That struck me as something highly unknown to me before. And as McCabe told Scott Pelley in that interview, every interaction that he had with the president, he did memos on. Those memos have been turned over to the special counsel. One would consider the things he said in that interview part of those memoranda, and the special counsel knows this interpretation of the facts from McCabe. One other thing I would say, this is something that I've encountered during the campaign and covering this administration. There is always, or seemingly, an inevitable tendency to say it's all or nothing. The president was reckless, chaotic, and there was great concern at the FBI that things were off the rails and normal protocols had not been followed. Fair enough. That's an interpretation from a long-standing FBI agent like Andrew McCabe. What was missing is any reflectiveness on Andrew McCabe's part of his own dismissal because he lied, didn't follow FBI procedures, or that things brought to the public square by the Justice Department Inspector General faulting the FBI, including James Comey, for not following the rules, not following FBI protocol in the Hillary Clinton email investigation and other matters. And this either or it's all one thing or all the other, where President Trump is concerned, sometimes leaves the public with an impression that's not exactly as nuanced as the available facts clearly show.
Well, perhaps maybe we'll see more of that in the book, a very layered story. You know, the president claimed that Andrew McCabe and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein were planning a, quote, very illegal act. Is there any plan for the president, do you think, or the White House to pursue this any further?
Well, that's going to be up to the president and his interactions with his brand new attorney general, just confirmed by the United States Senate last week, William Barr. Now, what the president is meaning by saying very illegal, look, there is nothing illegal about the FBI with proper predicate launching an investigation. And as McCabe said in that 60 Minutes interview, an investigation doesn't assume guilt and it doesn't represent guilt. It's just an investigation to try to get some answers to some pressing questions that have a legal foundation beneath them. So there's nothing illegal about that. Rod Rosenstein had no authority to invoke the 25th Amendment. It was completely outside his lane. Him sort of having a spitball conversation about that isn't by itself illegal. So it's not clear what the president is talking about. And it doesn't really have to be handled by the White House or the Justice Department because none of the things suggested in that interview actually happened. No wire was used by Rod Rosenstein to record the president. The 25th Amendment, to the degree it was even discussed, went away and was never a real issue, never a live issue affecting the president's service in office. So if the president wants to do anything other than tweet about this, we have no evidence of it yet.
And Rosenstein was expected to leave after William Barr's confirmation, as you mentioned, that happened last week. What might McCabe's interview mean for Rosenstein?
Probably nothing. I think Rosenstein's calendar is pretty well organized for his departure from the Justice Department. The only thing that could alter that speed is if the president decides to accelerate it. And there's no evidence of that. Again, I emphasize the word yet. But Rosenstein is on the way out, and he's made that clear.
And Major, last question. McCabe says he's considering suing the government to get his full pension. How do you think that might play out if he decides to do that?
So if he decides to sue, then he becomes a litigant. And every litigant is subject to discovery, meaning asking the government to provide information, and discovery of his own conduct. Perhaps Andrew McCabe is comfortable with that. Perhaps he isn't. One would think, since he was fired just before becoming eligible for his pension, he might have already sued if he was completely comfortable with discovery on both sides of the equation. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. If he files a lawsuit over this matter, you can be certain he's decided that he's at least comfortable enough to have the government do discovery on him as he does discovery on the federal government.
Major, thank you so much. So much to keep
Sure.
track of, and we know we can always count on you to break it down for us. Thanks, Major.